Jessica was very pressed after she finished her plate of jollof rice and chicken and urgently needed to ease herself. So she asked the waitress where the restroom was located, and she was directed to the back. However, when she got there, the single door was locked from the inside. It was already occupied by another customer, and Jessica couldn't hold it any longer. She saw a swinging door which led to the kitchen. When she peeped through the swinging door, she couldn't make much sense of what she saw. So she went through the door into the kitchen, and what she saw shocked her to the bones. It made her want to vomit. Everything was very dirty and irritating. There were a lot of greasy plates piled up beside the cooking area. Raw goat meat was left out in the open in a plastic basin with a dozen of green flies perching on it. The women who were cooking the food had sweaty hair, and their aprons were stained with all sorts of things. The whole floor was dirty and filthy, and there were rats roaming freely all around. Then Jessica saw the chief cook, a very large, dark woman wearing a sleeveless top. Her teeth were very brown, and the hair on her armpits were bushy and disgusting. Jessica watched as the fat woman scratched her dirty armpit with the big wooden spoon she was using to cook, and still used the same spoon to stir a pot of soup without washing it. Jessica felt very disgusted, and she almost wanted to throw up. She held her stomach with one hand and used the other hand to cover her nose and mouth because the smell and odor in the kitchen was very bad. She went back inside the restaurant feeling disappointed and irritated at the same time. When she left the restaurant, she rushed outside to vomit all that she had eaten into a nearby gutter. She couldn't believe what she just witnessed. Jessica grew up getting used to buying food from different restaurants because she was too lazy to cook at home. She knew all the best and latest restaurants and fast food joints in Lagos, and she had eaten in each and every one of them. Every night, she would pick a new restaurant and patronize them. Her friend Cynthia would often try to advise her against eating out all the time. But Jessica refused to listen to Cynthia because she didn't see anything wrong with buying food outside. She was already used to eating out because that was the way she was brought up. When she was still very little, her parents were always busy with work and business that they didn't have time for the children or chores at home. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson were fortunate to give birth to 3 children whom they named Jessica, David, and Grace. But as soon as the children started going to school, their parents stopped giving them the needed attention. Whenever they were going to school in the morning, their parents would give them money to buy snacks at school. And when they returned home in the afternoon, they would have to go and buy lunch from a nearby fast food joint beside their house. At night, they would have to buy dinner and eat before their mother and father returned from work. Jessica, the eldest daughter, took up the role of a mother in the home. Jessica couldn't cook because her mother didn't teach her. Their father was a well-known engineer who traveled a lot for projects. Most times he would be on the road away from home for 2 or 3 months. He wasn't bothered about home. All he cared about was the financial aspect of the home. Their mother was a top executive at a bank on Victoria Island, so she was always busy from dawn to dusk. She would leave the home very early to escape traffic and get home when the children were already asleep. Jessica grew up learning how to take care of herself and her siblings in the absence of her parents. She got used to the street life and its way of life. The 3 children grew up to prefer junk food over freshly homemade meals. Before Jessica graduated from the university, she lost her father in a tragic accident. Her siblings also started following their mother's path into demanding careers. After Jessica graduated from the university, she was posted to a different part of the country to teach at a remote school for the 1-year compulsory National Youth Service Corps. When she got there, it didn't take long before she settled down and got used to the new environment in Ibadan. It was in this new environment that she met Cynthia. Cynthia was also a graduate who was posted to teach at the same school. Like Jessica, they became close friends and started living together as sisters in the lodge provided for Corps members. But unlike Jessica, Cynthia rarely bought food outside the house. She would often go to the market and buy foodstuffs and cook them by herself. But Jessica didn't know how to cook. As soon as Jessica was settled in the new environment in Ibadan, she started exploring the city in search of street food vendors and restaurants to know which of them offered the cheapest meal with a good taste. Every single day, she would eat at a different restaurant to test their food. Cynthia observed that Jessica didn't buy any pots or plates for cooking at home, and she found it very strange that Jessica liked to always eat out and didn't like cooking. So one day Cynthia told Jessica, "Don't you know it is safer and cheaper for you to buy things at the market and cook for yourself? Why do you always prefer to waste your money on buying cooked food from outside?" But Jessica got offended and answered her rudely, "Is it your money? Have I ever asked you for money? How are my life choices your business?" Cynthia felt she was trespassing, so she apologized to Jessica and told her that she was simply trying to look out for her. But no matter what she told Jessica, it didn't change her habit of buying and eating food outside. One fateful day, Jessica and Cynthia were on their way back from their primary place of assignment when a very handsome and rich young man in a nice car approached them. "Hello, good afternoon. My name is Michael," the man said. He asked to see Jessica privately, and he told her that he liked her. They exchanged numbers, and they started talking often over the phone. Michael was a businessman who had many branches of his company in the country. He would often take Jessica out to a fancy, expensive restaurant to eat, and it didn't take long before Jessica fell in love with Michael. However, one fateful day, Michael decided to visit Jessica at the Corps members' lodge. Jessica welcomed him warmly and bought him a soft drink. As they were discussing, Michael's stomach started grumbling, and he told Jessica that he was very hungry and requested that she should cook for him because he wanted to taste her food. He offered to take her to the market so they could buy some ingredients and food items to cook with. But to his greatest surprise, Jessica told him that it was a waste of time to cook food. Instead, she said, "Why don't we place a call to one of those fancy restaurants and order a delicious meal instead?" Michael refused and insisted that he wanted to taste Jessica's cooking. When Jessica realized that Michael was very serious, she opened up and confessed to him, "I'm sorry, Michael, but I can't cook." Michael was surprised. Jessica was a very beautiful and classy lady, so he found it very strange that she couldn't cook. He became very disappointed and left Jessica's lodge abruptly. When Cynthia came back home, she met Jessica lying on the bed, looking very sad. She felt very concerned and asked her what the matter was. But Jessica refused to open up to Cynthia. Instead, she lied that she had misplaced some money, and that was why she was sad. She didn't want Cynthia to mock her because Cynthia had been warning her against buying food outside for a very long time. One fateful afternoon, Jessica was on her way back from work when she noticed a new fancy restaurant on her way back home. It was a new place, and she had never eaten there before. She walked past the restaurant and admired how beautiful it was. There were many customers, and the exterior design looked luxurious. Whenever she passed by the restaurant, it was always filled with customers, and one day she decided to patronize them. She walked into the restaurant, and she loved what she saw. It looked so beautiful and classy, yet their food was quite cheap. "This must be the reason why there are always customers in the shop," Jessica thought to herself as she went through the menu. As she was going through the menu, one of the waiters approached her and asked her what she would like to order. She made her order and it was brought to her promptly. The food tasted delicious, and ever since that day, Jessica became a frequent customer. She made sure to patronize them every day, and the waiters already knew Jessica's preference, so they expected her daily. Most times when her schedule was tight, she would place a call to them to deliver the food to her office. However, something strange happened. In less than a month after Jessica started patronizing the new restaurant, she was at work one afternoon and placed an order for food from them because she was too tired to go out in the sun. When they delivered the food, she started eating. But when she was almost done with the food, she saw a dead cockroach inside her rice. Jessica became very shocked and confused. It would be her first time seeing such a thing, and this was particularly because she was a street girl, fond of eating very fast without observing the contents of her food properly. Jessica was unable to finish the food, and she had to throw the rest away. But she foolishly didn't take caution. She felt it must have been a simple mistake. 1 week after the incident, Jessica fell seriously ill and was admitted to a hospital. She had a terrible stomach bug and a serious fever, which almost took her life. After the doctor's diagnosis, he told her that the cause of her illness was a strange bacteria known to breed only in very dirty places. He said to her, Always make sure your kitchen and cooking environment is clean. You are very lucky that you were admitted on time. This ailment is so dangerous it could kill you in just a few days." Jessica thanked the doctor before she was discharged from the hospital and was placed on medication. When she got back to the lodge, Cynthia became her caregiver. Whenever Cynthia finished cooking at home, she would ensure she gave Jessica some food to eat. But when Jessica completely recovered, she didn't change. She reverted back to her old ways of buying food outside. To make matters even more complicated, Jessica continued patronizing the same restaurant where she had found the cockroach in her food. She convinced herself that the incident was a one-time error and that such a beautiful, popular place couldn't possibly be unhygienic. The food was affordable, tasted good, and it saved her the trouble of thinking about cooking, a task she still felt was beneath her. Cynthia watched with a worried expression, but said nothing, knowing her previous advice had fallen on deaf ears. It didn't take up to 3 weeks before Jessica had to visit the hospital for the second time with the same symptoms, a severe fever and a painful, running stomach. The doctor recognized her immediately and gave her a stern look. "Young lady, you're back here again," he said, shaking his head. "I hope you're taking our advice about food hygiene seriously." Jessica nodded meekly, too weak and embarrassed to admit that she had gone right back to her old habits. However, when it happened the third time, just a few weeks after her second recovery, Jessica could no longer deny the pattern. Lying in the hospital bed, feeling weaker than ever, she decided that she would carry out her own secret investigation to understand why she was always falling sick after eating food from that specific restaurant. From the outside, the restaurant looked neat and luxurious. The floors were always swept, the tables were clean, and the waiters were well-dressed. She felt that there was no room for dirt in the eating area. "There has to be something else going on," she whispered to herself. She was determined to find out what was hidden behind the restaurant's perfect facade. She knew she couldn't keep spending her money on hospital bills and medication. The cycle had to stop. One fateful weekend, Jessica went to the restaurant. In the afternoon, she ordered her usual food. But this time she didn't rush the food like she used to. She took her time to observe each portion of rice she scooped to be sure it wasn't contaminated. When she was done eating, she pretended to be pressed and asked the waiter to point her in the direction of the restroom. When she got there, the restroom was already occupied, so she decided to use the opportunity to look around the restaurant. As she ventured down the hall, she saw a swinging door which led to the kitchen. As she peeped through the swinging door, she was shocked by what she saw. There were a lot of dirty dishes piled up beside the cooking area. Raw meat was left out in the open with dozens of flies perching on it. The women who were cooking the food had dirty hair, and their white aprons were stained with all sorts of things. It looked as if it hadn't been washed for many months. The whole floor was filthy and dirty, and there were rats roaming freely all around. Then Jessica saw the chief cook, a very fat, dark woman wearing a sleeveless gown. Her teeth were brown, and the hair on her armpits were bushy and disgusting. Jessica felt like throwing up. She ran back to the restaurant and sat on her chair, pretending like nothing had happened. Her stomach churned as she realized that many other restaurants may be the same way, even the ones she considered very clean and trustworthy. She thought about the different restaurants she had visited and the countless meals she had eaten and wondered if they were all the same. When Jessica got back to the lodge, she was very ashamed of herself and wished she had listened to Cynthia in the past. That day, she made a decision. She would start making her own meals. She cleaned out her own kitchen space and went to the internet to learn how to cook simple dishes. She then went to the market to get some basic cooking utensils and ingredients. When Cynthia returned that evening, she was shocked to see Jessica in the kitchen, surrounded by fresh vegetables and a new pot. She changed into her house clothes and immediately joined Jessica in the kitchen. Together, they finished preparing the meal, with Cynthia guiding Jessica on the right amount of seasoning to add. The food didn't look as beautiful and fancy as the meals she often bought at the restaurant, but it tasted very delicious. More importantly, Jessica knew exactly how it was made, with proper hygiene and care. She felt a sense of pride and relief she hadn't experienced before. Jessica continued learning how to cook through the internet and from Cynthia as well. She stopped eating out completely and would often carry a food flask to work. She finally found a balance, enjoying the comfort and safety of a clean, home-cooked meal. Her colleagues at the school were surprised to see Jessica bringing meals to the office and would often join her in eating during their lunch break. A few months later, Michael eventually returned. He called Jessica and apologized to her for leaving so abruptly after finding out that she couldn't cook. He admitted that instead of advising and pushing her in the right direction, he had acted rashly. Jessica, in turn, told him about her terrible experiences with the restaurant and how she had finally learned her lesson. The both of them settled their disputes and began their relationship anew, built on a more honest foundation. Some months later, they got married. The moral lesson of this story reminds us that not everyone or everything is as clean as they appear on the outside. Sometimes, we should make an effort to see where the food we buy is being prepared. No matter how busy you may be, always try to make sure that you have time for your children, as the habits they form in their youth can follow them for a lifetime. And when you truly love someone, you should have their best interest at heart. Don't walk away simply because of a trait you don't like. Instead, attempt to see if they are willing to improve or change and offer your support in their journey.